devil's advocate here. So I agree with where Staffy's coming from in terms of that there could be better coaches out there, but it isn't just about being a better coach in terms of style of football. It's about being compatible with the direction that we're going in. And that for me is where Man United fans, we have to think bigger, bolder, and deeper than just who do I think is a better coach. So I think De Zerbi will make us play much better football. I quite rate him as a coach, so I like him. But if he doesn't want to work in a system where he doesn't get to pick the players, and we know as a club that they're going to butt heads over that, you don't employ him. If we want to go and get one of the, if we speak to Simeone today, we go, Simeone, like we really want to bring you in to manage this project. And he said, yes, but I want full control over who comes in and who goes out. I want full control over the style of football. He isn't yes, he's a great manager, but he isn't right for what we're trying to grow and develop as a football club. And that's where I look at the situation and go, well, I would rather us wait for the right manager in 6 months or a year's time who wants to work with us in terms of the structure that we're going to build versus having people coming in and butting heads too early. So that's why I'm keeping a very open mind about this situation. And although there are managers on the list that I think I look at them and go, as an actual coach, I'm not sold on you. You need someone that is compatible with your club. We are moving away, and rightfully so, from this model where the manager at Man United is who we build everything off. It just hasn't worked for us for 10 years. So the bit that I find most infuriating about Man United fans are the ones who still just believe, get a top coach, sign some good players, we're going to be brilliant. I'm not saying every coach we've hired has been top class, but 2 or 3 that we've signed in the last 10 years, everybody's been excited about. Ten Hag, Jose, LVG, at the times they came in, everybody said, yes, give that to me. Moyes and Ollie, it was a little different, but we've gone for this approach 5 times where the manager is the center of what we do. We build the club around them. They pick the players they want, and they are essentially the most powerful person outside of the owners and Ed Woodward. Hasn't worked. So we are now building a structure where the club dictates the style of play, the types of players that we sign, controls the lion's share of the individual footballing departments of the club, and the head coach is going to coach the first team. He's going to get a say on the positions we fill, and he'll be given a short list of players to choose from. That for me is so important, medium to long term for the club. So what you then need is a manager that's willing to work in that structure. That's why for me, I'm staying very reserved and on who we're bringing in as manager. Because although there might be 5 other candidates that on paper look better, if they don't want to work in that structure, they're not right for us. They're actually going to be worse for us than a quote unquote worse coach who wants to work in that environment. And that for me is why Poch has fallen out so quickly at Chelsea. They weren't compatible with one another. What he wanted and what Chelsea wanted is completely different. Now, Pep Guardiola is the best manager in the world right now, no doubt. But he isn't asking for things at City that he can't get. Their working relationship is as close to perfection as you can get. And he doesn't know half the players that the club are going to sign. But he is very happy with that setup. And you need to create that environment for success to build from. We've had 5 managers running, where at least 3 of them, if not 4, between 6 to 12 months in, have fallen out with the way the club is being run. There's been a change of direction, or we have to get away from that and be on the same hymn sheet from day one. There's always going to be problems. There's always going to be mistakes, but we need to all be sailing in the same direction as steadily and as consistently as possible. And that for me is why someone here says we need to know more. How do we know if they're making the right decisions? We're not going to know if they're making the right decisions until further on down the line. You're going to have to, in my opinion, it's going to take time for us to know if it's the right decisions. I've seen Goldbridge say if they sack Ten Hag, he's going to be INEOS out. I've seen people say if De Zerbi comes in, we're not serious, I want them out. I think everybody has to slow their roll, slow down, and give this some time to manifest itself. We are not going to have answers by the end of this summer, 3 months into the season. Even maybe at the end of next season, we're not going to have answers yet. It's going to take time and patience for me.
Listen, Terry, I agree with what you're saying, by the way. And I'll tell you myself right now, even if we do keep Ten Hag, I will be angry. I will lose some patience with INEOS, but I'm not. The first thing I'm not gonna do is say INEOS out. because that's not how I personally analyze things in life. I actually do give everything a chance, even though it's not what I wanted, but I do give it a chance to see how it goes and then be like, all right, maybe I was wrong, or be like, yeah, see, I knew this was going to fail anyways, but at least I give it some time. The only thing that I was challenging, which I don't agree with, is that there's no managers out there that we can get that are better than Ten Hag. Because unless you're Manchester City, that logic should not be applied to you. Because
Okay,
Manchester
coaches.
City
Tell me
currently,
about coaches though, because managers, you're not getting a manager, you're getting a coach.
see what you're doing again, Lawless. Here's the thing. I named some names, but then Terry was like, "Oh, but maybe this, maybe that, maybe they don't want to
No,
work
but
with
it's
that
not.
structure."
Deserve
That is
did
fine to me.
leave for that reason. That's
No, but here,
they're fighting for that reason.
okay, I understand. I think De Zerbi left because of his ambition. He wants to grow with the team. He starts once. He
No.
probably wants to
They
start winning stuff.
let him go.
No, I get
That's
that. They disagreed about a few things, but he probably
he
wanted
wanted
that
more
step up
control.
anyways. Okay, I get that. Listen, that is not what I am challenging because Terry already made that point, and I have no issue with that. I am not a professional scout with professional scouting reports with hundreds and hundreds of managers that manage in Europe or in England or around the world. And I'm sitting there and I'm saying, who could probably be a good fit for what we are trying to do in this club? I am not at that level to say that. I just named a few names because as a fan, we just named the names that we know. Unless you make a deep depth, like a deep search in like analysis with managers and you go on all these websites, the average person wouldn't know. But I'm not looking at INEOS as the average person. INEOS should be sitting there with scouting reports that they have made over the last 4 or 5 months, however long they've been
Yeah.
here, for managers and players and staff members. That's why when they went for certain names like Omar Barada, all of us were like, who? Did anyone know Omar Barada when we hired him? No one did, unless you probably know a little bit about the City Group. The average person did not know. And then we did our research, but they know these things. That's why I'm sitting here and I'm telling you this notion that there's no better manager out there than Ten Hag. I refuse that. And I refuse that for any club unless you're Man City, because unless you have Pep Guardiola, every manager out there probably has someone that's better than him. It's just a
I
matter
mean,
of who is educated enough to go find these people. You can say there's no clear. I agree with that. Yeah,
it's
definitely
got to be
not
obvious
clear.
because it's still going to be. You could get, like I said, there could be someone in the Dutch league, right, that turns out to be, or someone in the Portuguese league that could turn out to be better, but it's still a gamble. And that is a big decision to make. Is we've got a manager now, we'll have to pay off, right? Pay him out of his contract, go and sign, maybe pay another club to get a manager out of his contract, then give him a new deal, and hope that this is the guy. When, like I said, the big change at Man United is now you have this structure. So if they're looking at it and going, well, if Ten Hag is happy to work within this structure, which is as long as if they're keeping him, you have to assume that he's agreed to work in that new structure.
Yeah.
And then see how he gets on in that, rather than them go and pay him off and then take a risk on a manager that isn't, a star name that you can't resist.
Yeah, again, listen, I think both of you are making really good points, and I'm just trusting in what they're doing. And Barada, as you mentioned, is a prime example of why I'm trusting the new people running the club, because when it came to Barada, the media had no idea. That's what I'm thinking. The same thing here. I think these guys are keeping their cards very, very, very close to their chest when it comes to this decision making, which I like, because again, that's not been typical of it's very atypical for Man United to do that. So it's going to be interesting. On players, though, I want to throw this out, boys. Olise is linked to us. Some reports saying United are leading the race, others suggesting it's Chelsea. How excited would you be, Staffy, if Man United could bring Olise in as one of the first marquee signings?
I mean, very good player. I worry that Chelsea might get him, but I 100% I want him to come to us. I'm actually shocked that he's not even going to the Euros with France, because he's better than some of the players that be selected. I'm not gonna lie, Barcola and Kulumawani, and that's a joke that he didn't get selected. I swear he had like 10 Premier League goals and he's only played like 19 games. And I was hearing Kate yesterday saying that his injuries is a worry. I kind of disagree with that, because I looked at his injury record and he did have a long injury last year with his hamstring. I believe he re-triggered it again after he came back. So he's missed a lot of games last season because of one injury. But before that, he didn't really have that injury record that everyone is talking about. He's not like, what's his name, Pedro Neto. Pedro Neto has like a lot of different injuries. He's actually missed a lot of games. So that's someone like if someone's linked to Neto, you'd be worried for that. I feel like the injury thing with Olise is more of a myth. Obviously, you'll watch out to that hamstring, so hopefully he doesn't do it again because he's very young to have all these hamstring issues. But other than that, listen, very good player, very good on the ball. He gives us that creation of the wing that we lack because we don't have these creative wingers that we've been talking about all season. The closest we had to that was Sancho, and obviously we know what happened there, and he's probably going to get sold in the summer anyways. But Olise would be that creative winger that we need. You know, he's left-footed. He would absolutely replace Anthony in a heartbeat because Anthony was not able to give us anything in these last 2 years. So Olise, listen, I'd be very happy with it. And for the price that he's been quoted at, I believe his release clause is 60 million. I'm not gonna lie, if it wasn't a release clause, he would probably be sold for more. Like no reason why Palace couldn't ask you or ask anyone for more money. So he'd be a perfect signing for us, and I hope we do get it done. We need to get that wing, the right wing position for us fixed ASAP.
Maybe this new physio, if you are getting for Arsenal, maybe he could make a difference to his injury situation, help him work on that, right? And because that can be done. Antonio had a bad history of hamstring injuries for us, terrible. And since the past few seasons, I don't think he's had one hamstring injury. So it's just because he has them now doesn't mean that's going to be him for the rest of his career. Do you know what I mean? But like we said, Terry, I think that Man United is probably the best destination for Olise for his career, just because you're the club that needs him the most. So it just makes the most sense if you really want him and you're going to pay the money.
Yeah. And people say his injury record's a concern. I mean, he's had a couple of injuries this year. Outside of that, he's never had injuries before. So I wouldn't look at one season where he's had a couple of injuries and go, that's a major problem. You're not talking about like a Reece James where it's every season, or a Neto where it's 2 or 3 times a season, multiple injuries a season, different parts of the body. Of course, you bring him in, he gets a couple more hamstring injuries. You're then going down the road of a Reece James game. That hamstring looks like it's got a problem. But again, people that are near to him and close to him, there doesn't seem to be any kind of conversation about that. But I want him, and I worry about Chelsea getting him. I worry about City getting involved. But I think he could be a phenomenal signing for us on that right-hand side. I know Ahmad came in the back end of the season and started to do well, but I'm all up for the competition. You've got Olise maybe being the starter, Ahmad challenging him on that side. It's a good pairing, and the one good thing
you can play them both together, Terry. It's a myth that you can't have them both together because a lot of people obviously Ahmad has a lot of fans, including myself, but it's a myth that they both can't play together because Ahmad is more. If you want to compare Ahmad to a closer player who's out there in the Premier, I'm not saying same quality because obviously this guy's been doing it for a minute before people attack me, but he's very similar to Bernardo because Bernardo can play in the middle and he can play on the wing. Ahmad is a little bit more of a natural winger than Bernardo, but we've seen Bernardo coexist with Mahrez as an example, and Mahrez has always been the out-and-out winger, and they both coexisted in a team. You can actually have him playing in the midfield as a 10 or an advanced 8 next to Olise being obviously on the right wing. So these two players can coexist. We don't have to pick one over the other. There is a world out there where a manager could come in and play both of them together. 100%.
Agree. And horses for courses. There'll be some games where you can do that because you don't need as much defensive-minded play maybe in the middle. You probably wouldn't do that first season away at Man City, but at home against at least half the teams you play, you could definitely do that, as I say. So, yeah, look, I agree. Starting positions is often less important than the position you take up on the pitch during the game. But, yeah, I'd love Olise to come in. I think he's a tremendous talent. And that right-hand side, that kind of, I know Mount's got the number 7 shirt, but that number 7 position at Man United has been a problem for a decade now. And I'd love to see it resolved. It's a very, very important position for Man United, not just each season to try and win you things. We've also been so imbalanced because our right-hand side has been weak for a long time. Everything goes down the left. Whoever plays on the left next season, it makes it easy for them if you've got somebody dangerous and who takes up players on that right-hand side, because it gives us, as I say, it gives us more balance to our play, makes it harder to predict what we're going to. We kind of always know at Man United, we're nearly always going to work it down that left-hand side, at least sort of 50, 60% of the time. So, yeah. They said that with Sancho. Well, yeah, we did that with Sancho and it didn't work out. But again, you're not looking at the bigger picture here. Just because one player didn't work out doesn't mean somebody else will not. Otherwise, by that logic, if you're like a Liverpool fan, based on your logic, you'll never sign another striker again or get excited about another striker because you bought Darwin Núñez and he fouled, and you bought Gakpo and he fouled by the highest level standards that you've got. So we're allowed to be excited about players just because others have flopped. Then what you're taking out of the situation is that Man United are going to be operating under a completely different structure, ethos, and culture moving forward. So it isn't like the previous quote unquote rebuilds. It's going to be a whole new world for us. So yeah, very, very happy indeed with the link to that player. And if we get him, I'll be excited. Rivals putting it down is always a good thing in the short term. You know, yes, some of them, they're all going to throw a lot of shit. Some of it sticks. Some players don't work out, but seeing rivals get worried that we're getting
They all want Olise. Let's be honest. They all want Olise. Even Chelsea fans who want Cole Palmer want Olise. That tells you how good Olise is. Anyone who doesn't want Olise probably just doesn't even understand football. Like, or they're just hating, like you said. Olise is a fantastic player. He has a great future in Europe. He has a great future in the Premier League. It's just going to be a matter of who gets him. So if we get him, good for us. Hopefully we don't ruin him like we ruined other players. But we should be all out for it.